Have you ever stopped and thought, is this just me having a bad week, or is it something more? We've all seen those situations, right? Maybe even felt
Right,
them.
absolutely.
Like Hemant needing his lucky shirt for every single exam, or Seema just struggling night after night to get to sleep.
Yeah, those everyday examples really hit home.
Or what about Rakesh? He gets so mad losing an argument he throws pillows.
Hmm.
Or Rena living with this constant vague fear. It sounds tough, isn't it? Trying to figure out where normal worries or habits end and maybe something else starts.
It really is. It's often such a subtle line, and those examples show perfectly how hard it is to just stick a label on behavior normal, abnormal, without really digging deeper.
Exactly. And that's why today we're doing a deep dive into, well, the whole complex world of psychological disorders and mental wellness.
It's a huge topic, but so important.
Right. Our mission here is to pull out the key insights from the sources we've looked at, give you some clearer ways to think about these things, maybe uncover some surprising facts, and leave you with some practical takeaways.
Basically, trying to demystify it all, cut through the noise.
Yeah, cut through that
Yeah.
information overload.
Mhm.
So let's unpack it.
Okay, so one of the biggest things our deep dive showed, something that really shifts how we think about this, is that mental health and illness aren't like two separate boxes. You're not just in one or out of the other.
Okay, so it's different from that.
Yeah, totally. There's this model, the Mental Health Continuum Model Keys developed it back in 2002, and it shows it's all one big spectrum, a dynamic one.
Dynamic how?
Well, we're all kind of moving back and forth along this continuum, depending on what's happening in our lives, how we're feeling inside.
Ah, okay. So not an on-off switch, more like a
Yeah.
dimmer switch.
Exactly, like a dimmer switch. And to make it clearer, the model breaks the spectrum down into 4 stages, roughly.
4 stages. Got it. Let's hear 'em.
So stage 1 is extremely healthy. This is when you're feeling really positive, functioning super well, your mood's stable, you feel calm, satisfied, motivated, lots of energy.
That sounds like the ideal state. Those times when you genuinely feel like there's nothing to worry about.
Pretty much. Then you've got stage 2, moderately healthy. Here, you're mostly neutral, but maybe a bit more reactive to stress.
Okay, like feeling nervous,
Yeah.
worried sometimes?
Yeah, or maybe some self-doubt creeps in, feeling tired. This is super common, like maybe before exams or a big interview.
Right. I've recognized that.
And the key thing here is if you realistically accept things and make healthy choices, eating well, getting enough sleep, connecting with people, you can often nudge yourself back towards stage 1.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's manageable. But then stage 3.
Stage 3 is moderately unhealthy. This is where you start seeing signs of maybe like psychological damage or distress.
So more persistent negative feelings, like sadness or fear.
Exactly. Sadness, fear, feeling inadequate, restless, irritable, maybe losing motivation, feeling apathetic. Relationships might get strained. And the sources mention this is sometimes where people might start using substances more. Now, you might still be getting things done work-wise or whatever, but it's a struggle.
That sounds tough.
Yeah.
But is it permanent?
No, absolutely not. That's crucial. It's not irreversible. With conscious effort, maybe getting some emotional support or even professional help, people can definitely move back towards better health.
Okay, that's really important to hear. And the final stage.
Stage 4 is extremely unhealthy. This is where you see clear signs of a major psychological disorder. There's extreme distress, and it's really impairing how someone functions mentally, emotionally, socially.
Right, and this is where professional care becomes essential.
Absolutely necessary, yeah.
Okay, so we have this continuum, we're all moving along it. But how do professionals actually decide? When does someone cross that line into needing a diagnosis? Because just feeling sad sometimes, that can't be it, right? It still feels fuzzy.
It is fuzzy to the untrained eye, which is exactly why there are specific diagnostic procedures. Professionals use standardized systems. You've probably heard of the DSM.
The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual.
Yeah, right. That one, and also the ICD, the International Classification of Diseases. Our sources highlighted 5 key criteria from the latest DSM-5, that really define what constitutes a psychological disorder.
Okay, let's break those down. What's the first one?
First is a clinically significant syndrome. This just means there's a specific pattern, a cluster of symptoms, behavioral or psychological, that tend to show up together.
So it's not just one random thing. It's a recognizable collection of signs.
Precisely. It's that pattern psychologists look for. Second, there has to be distress and or impairment.
Distress meaning Psychological pain.
Yeah, like feeling really sad, scared, inadequate, irritable, that kind of internal suffering. And impairment means you're having real difficulty doing what you need to do your roles at home, socially, at work.
Okay, distress and impairment. Got it. What's third?
Third, the symptoms need to point to an underlying dysfunction. This could be psychological, biological, maybe developmental, something that's affecting basic functions like memory, learning, concentration.
Right. An actual disruption in how things are supposed to work.
Exactly. Now, this next one, the fourth criterion, is super important for understanding what isn't a disorder.
Okay.
It states the condition should not be a normal response to common stressors or losses.
So like being deeply sad after someone dies?
Mm-hmm.
That's grief, that's normal. It's not a disorder.
Exactly. That's a healthy, expected human reaction. Or another example from the source is like a trance state during certain religious rituals. If it's culturally accepted, it's not considered a disorder.
That makes a lot of sense. It respects context. And number 5.
Number 5 is also crucial. It's not solely social or cultural deviance, meaning if a behavior is just unusual or maybe it goes against societal norms, but it doesn't actually cause dysfunction, distress, or disability for the person, then it's not a mental disorder.
Okay. So just being different isn't enough. The DSM-5 example about homosexuality not being a disorder fits here, right?
Perfectly. It's these kinds of rigorous checks that prevent just labeling anything different as a disorder. It has to cause genuine internal struggle or impairment.
Wow. That's a really powerful set of distinctions, often misunderstood, I think.
Definitely. So putting it all together, a psychological disorder or mental illness is basically a clinical syndrome. It involves significant changes in your emotions, your thinking, your behavior.
Or a mix of those.
Right, a mix. And it leads to real distress or dysfunction or impairment in your life.
Okay, that paints a much clearer picture of illness. But, the sources we looked at really hammered home this idea that mental health isn't just, well, not being sick.
Absolutely not. It's an active state. Way more than just the absence of disorder.
So what is mental wellness then? How do we cultivate that?
Well, think about those examples from the source materials, activities 2 and 3. They were really striking. You had Karan, 18, top engineer in college, right? But he's bored, feels life's a waste, just drifting. Compare him to Pramila, also 18. Her dad just died, family's broke, huge crisis. But what does she do? Gets a job, goes to night college. She's tired, she's tense, sure, but she's hopeful. She dreams of helping others someday.
Wow, quite a contrast, despite the circumstances.
Right. Or Santosh, battling drug addiction. He knows the damage. He's determined to quit, even after failing before. He believes he can get better, contribute again.
Okay, he has hope and determination, even with the illness.
Exactly. Now contrast him with Lolita. Parents fight constantly. Dad's an alcoholic. She's sad, lonely, withdrawn, no goals, just fed up with life.
I see. So Pramila and Santosh, even with their massive struggles, actually show more mental wellness.
That's the fascinating insight. More wellness than Karan, who seems lost despite good circumstances, or Lolita, who seems completely overwhelmed and resigned. It really shows wellness is about inner resources, coping, having purpose, even when things are tough.
That is profound. So, okay, we need a definition then. If it's more than not being ill, what is it?
The World Health Organization, the WHO, defines it well. They say it's a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope up with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make contribution to his or her community.
Okay, that's comprehensive. Realizing abilities, coping, contributing.
And our sources break that down further into 3 key aspects. First, emotional. Just feeling good, happy, content generally.
Makes sense.
Second, psychological. Things like high self-esteem, confidence, working towards your potential self-actualization, making decisions, feeling like you can influence your world, meet your needs, and again, contribute to society.
Right. That internal strength and capability.
And third, having a solid life philosophy. Having a purpose, goals, a sense of direction. It's really about all these psychological functions working well together.
Leading to productive stuff, good relationships, handling stress.
Exactly. Adapting to change. And there's another useful model for this, John Travis's illness-wellness continuum from way back in '72.
Okay, another continuum. How does this one work?
It uses 2 axes, one for illness, like we discussed, and another specifically for wellness. These create 4 quadrants.
4 quadrants. Interesting. Tell me about them.
Okay, quadrant 1 is kind of the ideal spot. No mental illness plus high wellness, feeling happy, confident.
Got it. The goal, maybe.
Quadrant 2, still no mental illness, but maybe lower wellness. perhaps feeling unhappy, grieving, lacking goals.
Okay, functioning okay, but not thriving.
Right. Then quadrant 3 is really interesting. This is someone with a mental illness, but who also has high wellness.
Like Santosh from the example.
Exactly like Santosh.
Right.
Good self-esteem, hopeful, feeling okay subjectively despite the illness.
That's a really important possibility to acknowledge.
It is. And finally, quadrant 4 is the lowest functioning. Mental illness combined with low wellness distress, no goals, maybe personality breakdown, like Lolita.
That model really shows the complexity. It's not just one line, but two interacting dimensions, illness and wellness.
Precisely. And it reinforces that idea like physical health, you know? You can get sick, but you can also work towards getting better, towards wellness, especially with expert help.
Which brings us back to diagnosis and treatment. Why is classification, putting things into categories, so important in the first place?
It's absolutely fundamental. Think about it like physical medicine. If you have a fever, the doctor needs to know why. Is it flu? An infection? Something else? Different causes need different treatment.
Right. You don't treat everything the same way.
Exactly. And it's the same in mental health. A proper diagnosis helps create the right treatment plan. Now, ideally, we'd classify by the root cause, but, well, the theories about what causes these disorders are complex and varied.
So it's hard to pin down one single cause for many things.
Often, yes. So classification usually relies on grouping symptoms that tend to appear together, these clusters we called syndromes.
Okay. And the main systems for doing that are the DSM and ICD we mentioned earlier.
Those are the big two, yeah. The DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders, comes from the American Psychiatric Association. Its main job is creating consistency in diagnosis among professionals. The current one, DSM-5 from 2013, has about 22 broad categories.
And the ICD?
That's the International Classification of Diseases from the World Health Organization. It's broader, covers all health diagnoses worldwide. ICD-11 came out in 2019, has 19 mental disorder categories, and there's a lot of overlap with the DSM-5. Shows a growing global agreement.
Okay, good to know the frameworks. Now, using those, let's maybe touch on some of the major types of disorders the sources highlighted, starting with anxiety disorders. We all get anxious, but when does it become a disorder?
Good question. The key is persistent nervousness or worry, often without a clear, proportionate reason that really gets in the way of daily life.
Gets in the way how?
Remember Hema, driving, suddenly heart racing, breathless, sweating, terrifying. That fear then grew. She stopped driving in traffic, then stopped driving altogether, started avoiding leaving the house.
Wow, yeah. That's definitely interfering with life.
Hugely. And a common type is GAD, Generalized Anxiety Disorder. This isn't just worry about one specific thing, it's this constant free-floating tension and nervousness.
Without a specific trigger necessarily.
Well, often, yeah. And it makes problem-solving hard, leads to avoiding things, messes with performance. Symptoms can be physical too, racing heart, headaches, trouble sleeping, breathlessness, irritability.
And it has to last a while for diagnosis.
Yeah, the guideline is usually about 4 weeks for kids, 6 months for adults, that kind of persistence.
Okay. And what about phobias?
Phobic disorders. Yeah, phobos was the Greek god of fear. We all have things we're scared of, but a phobia is an intense, irrational fear of something specific, an object, a situation that isn't actually that dangerous.
Irrational is the key word there.
Definitely. And it's so consuming, it messes up your life for, again, usually 6 months or more.
Like Nenad in the source, with his overwhelming fear of heights acrophobia. Looking down from a high place just paralyzed him.
Exactly. Or common ones like fear of water, spiders, crowds, enclosed spaces. Specific phobia, social phobia, where you fear social situations. Agoraphobia, which is often about fear of places you can't easily escape from.
Okay, that makes sense. Moving on, what about depressive disorders?
This is characterized by really extreme feelings of sadness, hopelessness, guilt that last for at least 2 weeks straight.
2 weeks minimum.
Yeah. Think of Anita's story after her divorce, feeling deeply disappointed, hopeless, lonely, stressed, blaming herself for everything. That captures the depth of it.
And it's pretty common, right? The sources said something like 5–6% of people experience mild depression.
That's right. And the symptoms are broad. It's not just sadness. It's hopelessness, losing enthusiasm for everything, big changes in appetite or weight, sleeping way too much or way too little.
Constant tiredness.
Yeah, fatigue, feeling worthless, excessive guilt, sometimes thoughts of death or suicide, trouble concentrating, can't make decisions. It's pervasive.
Sounds incredibly heavy. What about bipolar disorders? That used to be called manic depression, right?
It did. Bipolar disorder involves these really distinct alternating phases, periods of extreme depression, sadness, hopelessness, stress, like we just discussed,
Okay.
followed by, or alternating with, periods of the opposite extreme mania or hypomania. So, feeling incredibly happy, euphoric, full of energy, maybe unrealistic thinking, racing thoughts, little need for sleep.
So these dramatic swings between poles.
Exactly. Intense lows and intense highs, cycling within the same person. And research points towards genetics playing a role and imbalances in brain chemicals, neurotransmitters like norepinephrine, serotonin, dopamine.
Okay. Now, let's talk about trauma.
Yeah.
Trauma and stress-related disorders. Stress isn't always bad, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it motivates us.
True, moderate stress can be helpful, but we're talking about intense, overwhelming stress here. The kind that comes from really horrific experiences, war, major accidents, natural disasters, abuse, sudden loss.
Things that are just too much for anyone to cope with easily.
Right, and these can lead to specific disorders. One is acute stress disorder, or ASD.
Okay, what's that?
Remember Ivanish? Assaulted, robbed. Afterwards, for days, he had nightmares, flashbacks, intense fear, couldn't concentrate or sleep. That's ASD. It pops up right after a major trauma.
Symptoms like emotional numbness, too. Confusion.
Yeah, all of that. Intense fear, maybe feeling detached. These symptoms usually last from about 3 days up to a month after the event.
And if they last longer.
If those same intense symptoms continue for more than a month, then the diagnosis typically shifts to PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
PTSD. All right.
And the sources mention people typically go through stages after trauma. First, shock, just overwhelmed, disturbed. Then a suggestible stage, looking for guidance, easily influenced. And hopefully a recovery stage, starting to regain balance, move forward, though some effects might linger.
That's helpful to understand the process. Now, a really difficult area, substance-related and addictive disorders.
Yes. And the sources trace this back, from ancient use of herbs for pain or euphoria, right up to modern synthetic drugs.
That's been around a long time.
It has. And Mohan's story was pretty typical of how addiction can develop. Felt neglected, tried alcohol, liked the feeling, started drinking regularly.
And then couldn't stop.
Couldn't function without it. That's the shift to dependence. Addiction isn't just using something, it's that compulsive need, often developing physical dependence where stopping causes withdrawal.
Which can be dangerous in itself.
Very dangerous.
Right.
And the consequences are just devastating, right? Health collapses, physical and mental. Social life destroyed, financial ruin, people doing things they never thought they would.
What are the key signs or symptoms here?
Things like using way more than intended, trying to cut down but failing, spending tons of time getting, using, or recovering from the substance, intense cravings, pulling away from social activities, using despite knowing it's causing problems.
And needing more and more to get the same effect. Tolerance.
Exactly, tolerance. And it's important to remember there is help. Things like Alcoholics Anonymous, based on peer support, can be incredibly valuable. Recovery is possible, but it takes support.
Definitely. Okay, finally, let's touch on schizophrenia. Ronnie's story in the source was quite illustrative.
Yes, a young man becoming withdrawn, starting to hear voices, see things, becoming paranoid, talking to himself, convinced people were plotting against him.
It sounds terrifying. Where does the name come from?
A Swiss psychologist, Paul Eugene Bleuler, coined it in 1911, from Greek. Schizoin, meaning split, and phrenon, meaning mind, so split mind. Not multiple personalities, that's different, but more like a fracturing of thought, emotion, and perception from reality.
A fracturing.
It's a major disorder. Key features are delusions, hallucinations, and this sort of disintegration of thinking, language, emotions, behavior. Tends to start in adolescence or young adulthood, slightly more common in males.
And the symptoms are quite varied. The DSM breaks them down.
Yes, into positive and negative symptoms. Positive symptoms are things added to normal experience, things that are there but shouldn't be.
Like hallucinations. Seeing or hearing things that aren't real.
Exactly. Auditory hallucinations, hearing voices, are common, but they can be visual, tactile, smell, taste too. Also delusions. These are fixed, false beliefs that someone holds on to completely, even with proof they're wrong.
Like believing people are conspiring against you, like Ronnie.
Right. Persecutory delusions are common. Then there's disorganized speech, talking in a way that doesn't make sense, jumping topics, loose associations.
Okay, what else?
Disorganized or bizarre behavior, strange movements, agitation, maybe doing inappropriate things like screaming or undressing publicly, an incongruent effect where the emotion shown doesn't fit the situation, like laughing at sad news.
Those are the positive symptoms, things added. What about negative?
Negative symptoms are things missing or reduced from normal functioning. These often respond less well to treatment, unfortunately.
Like what?
Things like diminished emotional expression flat effect, a real lack of initiative or motivation, apathy, reduced speech, sometimes called alogia, anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure from things you used to enjoy, and a social behavior, withdrawing from social contact.
That sounds like a profound loss of function.
It is. For a diagnosis, usually positive symptoms need to be present for about a month, or negative symptoms for 6 months or more. It's complex.
The source mentioned the movie A Beautiful Mind about John Nash.
Yeah, a really powerful portrayal of someone living with paranoid schizophrenia. Helps make it a bit more understandable, relatable, perhaps.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground: the continuum, diagnosis, wellness, specific disorders. The big question then is, how do we spot when someone, ourselves or someone else, might need professional help? And can people really get back to a normal life?
Absolutely, they can get back. That's the crucial message. But recognizing the need for help is the first step. The sources give some clear red flags.
Okay, what are some of those signals?
Things like really struggling to concentrate for a long time, persistent sleep problems, lots of physical complaints with no clear medical cause, uncontrollable bad thoughts, really intense negative feelings, fear, anger, sadness, severe confusion, or memory loss.
Also losing interest in everything, pulling away from friends.
Yeah, losing interest, withdrawing, or saying really odd things, speaking strangely. Any talk or acts of self-harm, definitely, and just clear signs of neglecting basic self-care.
That's a helpful list. So when do those flags signal it's time to act?
The source suggests thinking about 3 things. Are the symptoms lasting a long time? Have they gotten noticeably worse, more severe? And critically, are they causing real problems in the person's life, work, relationships, basic functioning?
If the answer to all 3 is yes,
Then it's a strong sign that seeking professional help is the right move.
and help is available. You said people can lead fulfilling lives again.
Yes, absolutely. Treatment works. There's a whole range of strategies. Pharmacotherapy medications can be very effective for many conditions.
In therapy.
Lots of different kinds. Psychotherapeutic techniques like cognitive behavioral therapy or rational emotive behavior therapy helps challenge unhelpful thinking. Humanistic therapy focuses on growth. Gestalt therapy, interpersonal therapy focuses on relationships. Family and couple therapy, many options.
So it's not one size fits all.
Not at all. And this is vital. The right treatment plan has to be tailored to the individual, and that decision must be made by a qualified mental health professional, a psychiatrist, psychologist, licensed therapist, not self-diagnosed or decided by friends or family.
Get expert advice. That's key.
Crucial, because it really
Yeah.
is a journey. It's not automatic. I love the quote from the source material here. It really sums it up.
What does it say?
It says, "Having a mental disorder isn't easy. It is even harder to accept, yes, I am ill. The hardest of all is when people assume you just can get over it. The fact is you cannot automatically just get over it. You need to work towards the right path to be able to get over it. Healing is not automatic. It's a journey that needs to be trodden."
Wow. Healing is not automatic. It's a journey that needs to be trodden. That's powerful. It really emphasizes the effort, the process, the need for support.
Exactly. Commitment, support, understanding, they're all part of that journey.
You know, thinking about this whole conversation, especially the continuum idea, it really makes you think about how we view mental health in general. It's not just sick or well.
It really isn't. It's so much more fluid, so much more nuanced than that. And understanding that, seeing mental health and illness on these continuums could really change how we approach it, personally and as a society.
Definitely. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Given that we're all somewhere on this dynamic continuum, where do you see yourself right now? And maybe what's one small step you could take today towards your own mental wellness journey?
That's a great question to reflect on. And just remembering to be aware, be kind to yourself and others, and know that reaching out for professional help is a sign of strength, not weakness. It's a vital resource on that path to healing and wellness.